Welcome to the Deficient Vegans podcast, episode 39. I'm the Muscle Deficient Vegan here with the Protein Deficient Vegan. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi, everybody. So this week, we're going to talk about a great vegan protein source and tell you all you need to know about tofu. It can be a little intimidating and also has a reputation for being kind of bland and boring.
Because people are wrong.
Right. Well, I was also wrong.
I was
We'll
too.
talk about that. But we can set the record straight for sure. And then we'll also have our myth of the week this week, which is that you can be in a calorie deficit and not lose weight. But first up, new news.
New news.
So the first piece of news here is that there's a new product going around making the rounds on social media.
Mostly Reddit.
Yeah. It is a fermented egg white protein that is vegan.
Yes.
So it's made by a company called Healthier Comforts. It is 90% protein, and it is a complete protein because it is bioidentical to egg whites. It's also very high in leucine. It's made from fermenting yeast, and its purpose is to use in like baking recipes and other things where it calls for an egg white. You could also just scramble it up into a scrambled egg, but we could already kind of get tofu for that. So
yeah, the original post that I think got most popular was someone who was using it in angel food cake on vegan baking. And then I saw someone else using it in vegan fitness for like an egg white omelet. So
yeah,
seems like it's getting really good reviews.
Right. And it is really high protein, probably an expensive way to make an omelet, but you know.
Yeah, there were a lot of like concerns on like how are they getting it to be bioidentical?
Yeah. So there was a user, the plant-based patissier on Reddit, that I guess emailed the Healthier Comforts company and then posted that email on Reddit so everybody could understand how the food was made.
Thank you, plant-based patissier.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read the relevant part of the email here so you guys know too. So this is from the perspective of a person at the Healthier Comforts company. So they say, we source this product from the Every Company. They produce the animal-free egg white protein using a process called precision fermentation. So how exactly is animal-free egg white protein made? First, the DNA sequence for egg white protein is inserted into yeast cells. The yeast cells are then placed in a tank with sugar and water to ferment. During fermentation, the yeast cells produce egg white protein. The yeast is then completely filtered out, leaving behind the animal-free egg white protein. This process does not require any chickens, eggs, or farms, meaning the protein is completely vegan. Since the protein produced is one of the primary proteins found in egg white, this product is not suitable for consumers that have an egg allergy. So that's an interesting point. And on the label as well, it does say it's an egg allergen. So if you have an egg allergy, you probably shouldn't try it.
Oh, it's kind of like the vegan way, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like you can't drink that if you have some kind of a milk allergy.
Yeah, exactly.
Which means we have that now, so we can't.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way. I apparently have some sort of milk allergy now. So.
Yeah. He found that out the hard way twice.
You have to be sure.
So I guess we'll find out if we have an egg allergy because we did buy the vegan egg whites.
Right.
I'm excited to use them.
Yeah. And, you know, from the vegan perspective, they say that they use the DNA sequence from egg whites, which, you know, may have been extracted, you know, long ago by some company when they were doing, you know, DNA sequencing or something. That does not mean they have to keep using eggs or keep using chickens to keep making the egg whites. That was just, basically, at this point, it's just data. They just have the DNA sequencing data, and that's what's injected into the yeast.
Yeah, there's no ongoing use of eggs to make this. So, totally vegan.
Yeah.
I'm excited to try it.
And I think we'll probably see a lot more products like this in the future, and we'll see kind of where they fit in. I mean, a lot of the stuff we don't really need, like they're going to do this with meat at some point, like the lab-grown meat. Yeah. A lot of that stuff we don't really necessarily need lab-grown meat, but people do like to have options, and it does make it a lot easier for people making the transition who are like, okay, I really love meat, and so now at some point you'll have lab-grown meat that's vegan.
Someone in our Discord actually brought up like bioidentical leather would be cool, or like other clothing materials, and I actually like the idea of that better than lab-grown meat. Yeah,
it would be interesting to see what the future holds with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I would like to point out that yeast is so cool, guys.
Yeah, you're a big fan of yeast.
I love yeast. I think yeast are like the coolest little guys ever.
Yeah.
We're looking at a yeast stuffed animal right now, actually.
Wow.
Just a little yeast bud. Yeah, he's cute,
right? At me.
My friend Bruce gave it to me.
All right. Next piece of news is a company called Joyn Foods, Joyn, created a blended mushroom meat, which means it's half beef and half mushroom, and got it approved for use in K-12 schools in South Carolina, which, if you're not familiar with the U.S. school system, basically means everything that's not college, right? So
kindergarten through 12th grade. Right. So, primary school.
Yeah.
Yada, yada.
Exactly. So the product is called 50 Cut because it's, 50% cut mushroom with beef. And the students at the schools had tastings and overwhelmingly approved the alternatives. So there was a 96% approval for their meatballs and a 92% approval for their burgers.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the kids actually preferred the 50 cut over like just normal meat.
Yeah, that's what I
was
saw
interesting.
in the article. So yeah, I mean, they do still use beef, but now that means basically all the food that would have been beef in the school system could now be half mushroom. So it's definitely a big reduction in beef potentially.
Yeah. Obviously, I think we'd all like the world to go fully vegan, but if the entire world reduced their meat by 50%, that's like 25% population of vegans, right?
Yeah,
so still better for the animals.
Yeah. So yeah, look, that's good progress, and it's cool to see something like that. I think that's an innovative way to help reduce animal harm without really like pushing too extreme of something on somebody.
Yeah, I also like that it's happening when it's kids, because I think that makes them more likely to be open-minded when they are grown up and able to make their own food choices and buy their own products.
Right. And then last up, there was a vegan powerlifter that set a new French national bench press record. Her name is Alison Huet. Spelled Huet, and that is a French name, and I'm not French, so I may have messed that up.
We did try to practice, though.
Yeah. I found a website that says, this is how you pronounce the name, and I gave it my best shot.
Yeah. Either way, congrats, Allison. That's awesome.
Yeah. She's been vegan since 2017, I said. So,
woo!
Pretty cool.
Representing.
Okay, so now let's go ahead and move into the main segment about tofu. So let's start with what is tofu?
It's my best friend.
Oh, that's really sweet. Okay, tofu is made from 3 ingredients. It is dried, mature soybeans.
So not edamame.
Right, because edamame means young soybean. Water, and some sort of coagulant. I think the 2 main ones I saw were like a calcium coagulant and a magnesium-based coagulant.
Yeah.
But also, you can make it at home. So it's not something that's typically considered highly processed.
Yeah.
There are a lot more types of tofus than we're going to cover here. A lot of them are popular in Asian cultures, things like fermented tofu, stinky tofu.
I saw some reels on like hairy tofu.
Oh. Okay.
That has like a mold growing on it. But we haven't used any of those. So we probably, we can't really talk on that. Yeah. So we're only going to be talking on things that we know about and that we've tried.
Right.
And there's probably other stuff we're not covering. So like if you have tips and tricks or like things you like to make with tofu or ways you like to prepare tofu, let us know, because I'm sure we're missing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And a fun fact on the origin of tofu actually originated in China over 2,000 years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Been around a long time.
Thank you, China.
Thank you. So yeah, now why would you maybe want to use tofu?
Because it's great.
That's true. That's really the only reason. Right?
Yeah.
Soy. Okay, so tofu is made of soy, and soy is one of the few complete proteins that vegans have access to.
That, and I guess vegan egg whites, right?
Yeah, right. It's also the only vegan complete protein that has a high protein percentage and is kind of a lower volume food. Because the other vegan complete proteins are like buckwheat and quinoa and stuff that you can't eat a whole ton of.
Yeah. Plus they're like lower percentage protein.
Right. Yeah.
I guess the vegan egg whites are now making this a bit of a lie, but...
Yeah. Tofu is also very versatile, and it has a neutral flavor, which is actually a huge benefit for it. And then different types of tofu can be used for different things. Also, on the nutrient side, most tofus are good for iron, calcium, and manganese.
Yep.
And there's also no dietary cholesterol in tofu, but there's also no dietary cholesterol in any vegan food. So
yeah. My personal favorite thing about tofu is that it does have a neutral flavor, which I have been arguing on threads with a lot of people lately about how tofu tastes gross. Tofu doesn't taste gross.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste like anything. You just have to like add stuff to it to make it taste good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a great benefit of tofu.
If you just plopped a piece of tofu in your mouth, like out of the package, maybe it would taste kind of like water, like spongy water.
Yeah. Yeah. I also hear people complain about the texture, but like the texture is really dependent on how you make it too. Exactly. So
how you make it and how you prepare it. So,
yeah.
So let's talk about our first experiences with tofu, because like I alluded to earlier, I was a hater.
I was also a big hater.
So tell me about yours.
Okay, so I went vegetarian as a kid, and it was always like, oh, how's she going to get protein? We don't know. So I was mostly living on Morningstar nuggets, but then one day we decided to pick up a pack of tofu from the store. But like, this was before food blogs were readily available, really. And we didn't have a cookbook on this. And so my mom and I just kind of winged it. And I don't think we pressed the tofu. We basically just like tossed it around in breadcrumbs like you would do chicken. We treated it the way you would do chicken nuggets, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't press it. And so it came out as like wet, soggy ass blobs.
Yeah.
And it was really, really gross. And I didn't try tofu again, I think until after college when I had my own kitchen and stuff. And then I experimented again with it and figured out other ways to make it. But I didn't touch tofu for like 10 years.
Yeah. It's a shame.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I don't really remember when mine was, but I do remember that I had tried tofu a couple of times on salads and stuff. And when you get it like that, they basically just throw a couple of cold cubes that aren't even marinated or anything on top of the salad. So I would try it and you'd bite it and it would squeak and taste like nothing. And I was just really, it didn't seem very appealing to me. So
yeah, I remember asking you about trying tofu when we first started dating again. And you were like, I don't like tofu. And honestly, I think a lot of restaurants, aside from Asian restaurants, do a really big disservice to tofu because they don't know how to prepare it.
Yeah, definitely.
And they just are trying to give you bland, bare cubes of tofu that suck.
And don't get me wrong, it's nice that it's on the menu, but it'd be nicer if they put a little more effort into it.
I mean, it's they serve it in an equivalent way to if you just tossed chicken in the oven without seasonings and then just threw it on a plate and said, enjoy that.
Exactly.
It's gee, thanks for the effort.
Yeah. So yeah, that for me, basically, I tried it a couple of times and then probably like you, I didn't try it again for a decade or more just because it was okay, I guess this is not my thing.
That was unfortunate. But yeah, especially I think if you try it from a restaurant and it sucks, you kind of assume a restaurant's going to know how to cook it. So if you're getting shitty tofu from a restaurant, you're probably oh, all tofu's terrible.
Yeah, I'd understand if I tried to make it at home and it didn't turn out right. I would just be like, oh, I'd totally mess something up.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get it as part of a dish and have it be pretty underwhelming.
I spent $20 on this. Why was it terrible?
Right.
Tofu must be terrible.
Yeah, that $5 tofu upcharge.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where all these people on threads and social media are coming from. Maybe they tried it once at a shitty restaurant.
Yeah.
And then it just forever made them think tofu sucked.
Yep. So,
well, it doesn't.
And so we'll talk about how to maybe change that perception. So there are several different types of tofu. So we'll go through a few of them that we commonly use and that are kind of featured in the recipes on your website. So the first one is, it's really two, but it's super firm and extra firm tofu.
Yeah, but you would use them in pretty much the same way, in my opinion. Super firm is usually 43% protein and extra firm is around 40% protein. And those macros might vary, but that's what I see on the packages that we buy.
Right.
But yeah, they're pretty much the same. Super firm does come in a vacuum pack, which means it's pre-pressed, so you don't need to press it. But extra firm, while it tends to be a little cheaper, you will need to press it. So I think those are really the main differences. The macros are slightly better on super firm, and you don't have to press it.
Yeah.
So the convenience factor, but it tends to be a bit more expensive.
Yeah. So, but basically, if you go to the store and they're out of the super firm, you could just pick up the extra firm and basically use it the same way. Yeah.
So now we should talk about pressing tofu.
Yeah. What does that mean?
So, if you've had tofu that you didn't like that was wet and soggy, it probably wasn't pressed. So pressing it is just merely getting the extra water out of it.
Right.
So with the super firm, it's already pre-pressed, so you can just pop it out of the package and cut it, use it, do whatever you're going to do with it. But extra firm and then also firm, you're going to want to press the extra water out. So you can buy a tofu press, which are usually I don't know, $10 to $15.
Just a little plastic box.
Yeah. They have ones that you basically screw down, which that was one of the first ones I bought, but they make kind of a mess because now the water is kind of going all over your counter.
Yeah.
And you have to worry with you have to screw it down evenly. That was the first one I bought. I don't really recommend that.
Yeah.
Then we bought this plastic one that you basically push down and then it has side clamps. And I actually like that one a lot, although sometimes it can be kind of hard to get it down far enough. And I was really struggling the first time I used it. And now I just put my little fist in the hole in the center and push it down with my arm. I went to the Amazon listing that I bought and there were a lot of comments that were don't buy this unless you're living with a man that can close this.
Which is a weird comment to see. And you were well, that sounds dumb. That's not true.
Yeah. And then I was oh no, it is it's pretty hard to press.
It seems like it gets easier over time a little bit.
Yeah.
It's definitely still pretty sturdy.
Because basically basically you're pressing down on a spring.
Yeah, so in case you don't know, tofu, when you buy it, it comes in like a big kind of rectangle.
Yeah, like
shape, like
a prismatic rectangle.
Yeah. So basically think of
a rectangular prism.
Think like a big sponge, right? And then you have to press the water out. But it's like a big block, and you have to put it inside this box and squeeze it out. So
usually a spring's involved for the most part, unless you have one of those screw down ones. But yeah, I don't know. I like my springy box one now, and I don't seem to have as much trouble as I did when I first got it.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to pay money for a tofu press, you don't need a tofu press. You could throw down a couple towels, the tofu, and then maybe like a pan or something, and stack some books on it.
Yeah. Same effect, really.
Yeah. The only problem with stacking shit on it is you need to stack it evenly. Otherwise, it's like I've had this happen where like everything you've stacked on it topples over because like basically your tofu gets less tall as you press water out because you're smushing it down and you're getting the water out. So like if the weight is not evenly distributed, one side's going to get shorter faster than the other side, and then all the shit you've stacked on top of it will fall.
Right.
It's like a Survivor challenge.
So yeah,
But I think like the books help. I've also done it with maybe didn't have books, so I like threw a big pot on top of it and then just filled the pot up with random shit, like heavy candles and stuff. Yeah, you can get really creative.
Yeah, in a pinch, if you ever need to press tofu in a pinch.
You can also just like push it down with your hands really hard.
Yeah. I think a lot of people probably do it that way.
They probably do.
And there's a difference. Like, it doesn't get all the moisture out. Like, it does cook up a little differently.
You definitely need to, like, I think doing it over a longer period of time, you're going to get more out, like a subtle press over a longer period.
I've seen a lot of people on Reddit that it seems to be a pretty popular opinion that they just never press their tofu when they cook it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there are certain ways that you can avoid pressing it. Like, we're going to talk about some different ways to prepare it that I think, maybe you don't need to press it because there's going to be enough surface area you can cook off the extra water. But, like, man, if you're cubing it, you should really be pressing that shit.
Yeah.
And then I would say if you can press it overnight, I think that's best. You're going to get the most out if you press it overnight. But I think 20 to 30 minutes, you should be pretty good too.
Yeah, cool.
Moving on from pressing.
So with because that type of tofu is so firm, it's kind of a solid basically, there are a lot of different things you can do with it.
Yeah. One of my favorites is to shred it.
Yeah.
And I like to use like a vegetable or like a cheese grater and just shred it like you would like cabbage,
Yeah.
And then basically because you're shredding it, there is so much surface area on all of the little tofu shreds that it allows for water to bake off of it really well, which like results in like a meatier texture, but also like you can make it crispy really easy that way.
Yeah.
And because there's so much surface area on it, you get a lot of spices. There's like lots of surface area for the spices or seasoning or marinade or whatever you're doing to stick to it really well. So I'm a big fan of shredded. Do you like shredded?
I like the shredded a lot. Yeah. That's really good. I didn't even realize that was an option.
Yeah. I think the first time I did it, I was trying to make like that crab rangoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I make it like more like meaty and maybe like a bit crispy?
Yeah.
To like hold up in the like sauce stuff. So
it definitely works.
Yeah. So I like to use it shredded on tacos, or I really like making like the fake crab meat out of it.
I don't think we've done this with it either, but I think that would actually be pretty good on a salad too. Just like
I think so too. We should do that. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Ooh, yeah.
I was just thinking when I was talking earlier about they just put cold cubes on a salad. This would have been a way better option.
Oh, yeah. Because, like, you get more seasoning on it. Like, it really sticks to it.
Yeah.
And there's kind of, like, in my opinion, like, kind of two ways to flavor something like this. You can either do a wet sauce or, like, dry spices.
Yeah.
So, with the wet sauce, I mean, you could either marinate in it, but, man, I don't like wasting time marinating stuff, so I usually don't do this.
Yeah.
But I think you get a similar, like, especially with this, like, there's so much surface area, I think you get a similar effect if you just cook it in a wet sauce.
Mm-hmm.
I like cooking it in barbecue sauce. Like, we make a lot of, like, shredded barbecue tacos and shredded barbecue nachos with it, and I really like that.
And the one thing I've learned about something like a strong sauce, like a barbecue sauce with
Yeah.
tofu or really any of these vegan options is like those sauces are such a strong flavor that you can't really tell the difference between like shredded barbecue chicken and shredded barbecue tofu.
Yeah.
Like it all just tastes like barbecue meat, basically.
Right. And I think that's where I think omnivores get a little confused because they're thinking they're tasting meat.
Yeah.
But I think they're really just tasting like spices and sauces that you put on meat.
Yeah, that's definitely 90% of the flavor.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things I've learned since going vegan is like all the flavors I used to like, 90% of that was in the sauces and seasonings. So all this stuff still tastes the same.
Yeah. So like as long as you get the texture to a place where you don't hate it, it's going to taste pretty good.
Yeah.
And then like the other way I like to add flavor to shredded tofu is I'll flavor it with dry spices. So like that's what I do with the crab meat. Like basically your shredded tofu is already going to be like a little bit wet anyways still. And so it's going to grab onto spices really well. And if you want it crispy, you can also add cornstarch. But then I like basically toss the shredded tofu with a bunch of spices by hand and then just like toss it onto a baking sheet and throw it in the oven.
Yeah.
And flip halfway through and you've got like meaty, crispy, seasoned tofu shreds.
Yeah. And when you're just like shredding it with a grater, I mean, this all takes very little time.
Oh, yeah. It's super fast.
Yeah, cool. What are some other ways to prepare it?
Slicing it is another good one.
Okay.
So you can definitely do that with a knife, but I found that you can actually get thinner slices if you use like a wide vegetable grater, or like a mandolin would work as well.
Yeah. Also better to be more consistent than a knife.
Yeah, exactly. So then it's going to like cook more consistently as well.
Yeah.
But what I like about this is like it's very, very thin. So this actually works pretty well with the marinade because it's going to kind of like soak all of that shit up.
Yeah, the first time you made this one, you were soaking it in something for, I think, one of the sandwich recipes.
Yeah.
But it turned out super good.
Yeah, the first time we did the shred or the sliced, it was for, I think, the Philly cheesesteak.
Yeah.
So it makes really good like sandwich slices.
Yeah.
And we just marinated that in soy sauce and like half soy sauce, half maple syrup. And it gets a nice like salty, sweet flavor yeah, I don't know. I think it's really good.
Yeah, me too.
But you can cook that on a baking sheet or in a pan. But I really like this method as well.
Yeah. And you can also like crumble it up, right? I've seen you do that before.
Yeah. So crumbling is kind of the basis for a tofu scramble. So you're usually just going to crumble it by hand. So you don't need any fancy kitchen equipment like a grater or a knife even. You're just using your hands. But this one also increases the surface area so that spices and stuff can stick to it and also allows for more water to cook off of it.
Yeah.
So you end up with a meatier texture. So for like a tofu scramble, you would put it in a pan, and I like to cook it to add some like brown it a little bit. Then I'll add the spices and some liquid back in so that you can get the spices well distributed and then cook it some more.
Yeah, the liquid just helps the spice kind of move around in the pan a little more freely.
Yeah. And then I actually like using tofu crumbled seasoned tofu for like salads or chilies.
It's really good on chili.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can do that. You just crumble it, maybe add some soy sauce and then a bunch of spices.
Yeah.
And then chuck it on a baking sheet and cook it for like 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah. And then we have the old standby of the cubes, right?
Yes. You can cube it. We really don't cube it very often.
Not much at all.
And if we're going to cube it, I typically will like tear it into chunks by hand.
Yeah.
Because that also increases the surface area. So like
you get all the jagged edges.
Yeah, exactly. Like spices and stuff stick to it better. It crisps better. That's just my personal opinion. It doesn't look as pretty though.
Yeah. But, you're going to chew it up anyway.
But yeah, like who really cares, right?
We're not trying to get any Michelin stars over here.
No, this is not that kind of place. We're flavor first over here.
Yeah. And this one's also good for if you're trying to reduce your calories and not use as much oil when you're cooking. You can just throw this in like a copper crisping tray or an air fryer or something like that.
Yeah. And if you want it even more crisp, tossing it in cornstarch helps with that. You can also do like, I guess, breadcrumbs and stuff. Specifically, if you're doing cubed or chunked, you definitely want to be pressing this because especially if you're trying to develop a crispy texture on the outside, that means the inside is less likely to have water evaporate from it.
Oh, yeah. Kind of seals it in.
Yeah. So you end up with a wet blob. Like the other ones, like when you're crumbling it or shredding it or thinly slicing it, I mean, it's like less important that you press it because like the water has a lot more places to escape from. But like cubing specifically, you definitely need to press if you're cubing it.
Yeah. And then if trying to decide what shape you want your tofu in is a little too much mental rigor for you, you can just throw that motherfucker in a food processor.
That's true. The food processor is always an option. I would probably add some liquid to it because like extra firm and super firm tofu, they're thick.
I think the most common one you use for this is like the high protein ricotta, right?
Yeah, for lasagna and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, for this I'll usually add a little bit of soy milk and then maybe like some nutritional yeast and some other spices and flavors. And then, yeah, you end up with like a ricotta type of texture, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And I would either just use extra or super firm for like a ricotta or do like half extra super firm and half firm tofu, because if you use firm tofu, I think it's a little too loose and it doesn't really have that like ricotta texture, in my opinion.
Yeah. And isn't there some kind of trick with like freezing the tofu that I've seen that online, I think?
Yeah. So if you freeze tofu and then you thaw it and then you press it, it actually makes it even more meaty.
Okay.
So if you're wanting even more meaty tofu, try freezing it. And you can also do this with silken tofu, and the silken tofu is actually more interesting to me because we did this and it creates like kind of like individual layers, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But
it did look kind of interesting. I remember seeing that.
Yeah. So basically, when you freeze silken tofu, it kind of like crystallizes all the water, and then when it thaws out, all the water kind of comes out of it, where you can't normally press silken tofu.
Yeah.
But you can after you freeze and thaw it. So then you press it, and then maybe you freeze and thaw it again and press it again, but it like takes all the water out, and you end up with like these really interesting like layers.
Yeah.
And it's very meaty, and you can kind of make like chicken nuggets or something out of it.
Yeah.
It's all like
very involved.
It's very involved. There's extra time involved. So like I think unless you're really going for a certain texture, maybe don't mess with freezing it, because you can get a good meaty texture without freezing it, but it is an option.
It's good to know. We got an advanced technique tip there.
Yeah.
So that was all mostly for the super firm and the extra firm tofu, but there's also something just called firm tofu, right?
Yeah, which is a little less firm than extra firm or super firm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so typically firm tofu is around 40% protein as well. All of this is on a calorie basis.
Right. This one is also packed in water, so if you're going to slice it up and stuff like that, you still need a tofu press.
Yep.
But if you're going to food processor it, you can just squeeze the water out with like a cheesecloth, right?
Yeah, which is usually what we do because we forget to press stuff. But if I'm going to chuck it in a food processor anyways, I'll just like either get a cheesecloth and look really, it's a weird thing. You look kind of weird pressing it with a cheesecloth, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we also have this like metal mesh strainer thing that has really, really tiny holes. I don't even know where I got it or what it's for.
It's for noodles and stuff, I think.
Is it? But like the holes are so tiny.
Yeah, I don't know.
Either way, sometimes I'll just like smush all the tofu on the sides of it and it like presses the water out for you.
Yeah.
Basically, you're food processing it before you put it in the food processor.
Yeah.
But it's a good option if you're not planning on like, cutting it into specific style shapes.
Yeah. I think that's probably, the firm is probably the one we use the least often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like if I'm going to be doing any of the shapes we talked about, I'm going to be using extra or super firm. I'm not really going to be messing with firm.
Yeah.
Usually I use firm if I'm going to be making like cream cheese or like dips.
Yeah.
Because it's, I don't know, the texture is just a little bit looser than like extra firm and super firm, even after pressing it. So
that makes sense. And then the next type we have here is pretty significantly different than those, and it is silken tofu.
Yeah.
So it's made really similar to the other types of tofu, except the soy milk is not coagulated when it's made. So it leaves it with like a silky and smooth texture, which is why it's called silken tofu.
It doesn't have curds.
Yeah.
So there's two types you can get of silken tofu. There's a refrigerated type, which you can usually find if your grocery store sells it. It's going to be like hanging out with the other tofus in the refrigerated area. But there's also a shelf-stable variety. And if your grocery store sells that, at least if you're in the U.S., that's probably going to be chilling out in the international cuisine section.
Yeah.
Like maybe over by like the Asian vegetables is where we typically find it. Like the Asian canned vegetables.
Yeah.
But since it's shelf stable, you can also buy it online. And you can even buy it in a 12-pack, which is what we actually do, because our store is like not great at staying in stock.
Yeah, for the Silken or for the shelf stable one, it's not great. But we get the Mori New on Amazon, I think, right?
Yeah, Mori New used to sell it directly from their site, but they stopped doing that like a year or two ago, so we have to buy it on Amazon. But I think there are a lot of other online retailers that also sell it.
Yeah.
There are a couple of different firmness levels of Silken tofu, which you maybe don't know about, because I get this a lot. They're like, how can it be extra firm and also Silken tofu?
It is a little confusing.
It is confusing, but it does exist, and I'm not wrong. I get actually told I'm wrong more than I get like a question of like, what does this mean? They're just like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
This isn't a thing.
That seems to be like how people ask questions now on the internet. They're like,
I know.
You're wrong and you're stupid and blah, blah, blah. And then you could just like answer it like that was a question, I guess.
It's very aggressive. I don't know why people are acting like this. It is weird, right?
Yeah.
Like it went from like a question to like, you're a fucking idiot. Let me tell you what's actually true. And then I have to be like, hey, man, this exists. You want me to show you a picture? Also, Google's free. You could just Google it and you would know.
Yeah.
But anyway, it does come in different firmness levels. Like some of the most common are extra firm, firm, light firm, and soft. We typically will use extra firm because the macros are like a little bit better. And this seems to be the one our grocery store stocks. So I don't know what everyone else's stores stock, but we have like, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10 grocery stores near us that stock this, and they all stock extra firm Silken tofu. So that's just the one we started buying, and that's what I use.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't really press Silken tofu because it's pretty soft. It would just kind of squish into nothing. But if you, like you said earlier, if you do freeze it, then you could press it.
Yeah.
Silken is mostly used, at least by us, in recipes for by blending. So we have a couple of different things that we like to put this in to add protein.
Yeah, so the first one is sauces. It works really good in creamy sauces, like an Alfredo or a cheese sauce or a mac and cheese sauce or a base for a gravy. You could also add it into soups or make creamy soups out of it.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff you can do there.
Yeah, a lot of the sauces and dips and stuff, it's really good.
Condiments, you can also make high-protein condiments.
Yeah.
Like mayo, sour cream. You can make your own salad dressings, like creamy salad dressings.
Yeah.
You're obviously not going to make Italian salad dressing out of, or could you? Probably not.
And caveat here, since this is tofu-based, if you're making a mayonnaise or a salad dressing, make it when you're about to use it. Because this can't like sit in the fridge for a month like your normal off-the-shelf stuff. Yeah,
that's actually a really good point. So if you're blending Silken tofu, you have about a 3-day shelf life on that before it goes bad. Because this is with all tofu, like you're really only going to get maybe 3 to 5 days in the fridge before you probably should stop eating that.
Yeah.
So when we do the condiments, it's usually only if we're going to be making a dish that uses those, and we don't want 100 grams of fat from using vegan mayonnaise.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Also, something we really use Silken in a lot is smoothies.
Yep.
So it's like make a protein smoothie, just dump a box of Silken tofu in there, blend in some fruits and stuff, and you're off to the races.
It adds thickness and creaminess. You kind of use it in the way you would Greek yogurt.
Yeah, exactly.
So you could also just use it how you would use Greek yogurt for the most part.
And pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last thing, and then another thing is like desserts.
Oh, yeah. It is great for desserts, and that's probably, I think, what I see most people using it in.
Yeah.
But like it's good for puddings and mousses, but also like you can make a really hella good cheesecake out of it.
The cheesecakes from this are so good. It's insane.
Yeah. Actually, my hot take is don't use normal vegan cream cheese for a cheesecake, and don't use blended cashews. Use Silken tofu.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you want a nice creamy vegan cheesecake, just use Silken tofu.
And a bonus that makes it have a lot of protein.
Yeah.
But it also, it just really tastes a lot better. So
yeah. You can also make like creamy, like silky pies with it.
Yeah.
A really, really easy thing you can do is just blend up Silken tofu, add in melted chocolate chips, and that's a really good like creamy pie base.
Yeah.
Or also like, I guess you could just eat that as a mousse too.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say about Silken tofu is you can also use it as like an egg replacement.
Oh yeah.
So you can use that in baking or like whatever else you're going to use an egg in, mostly baking, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there are also, if you're like, oh, all this tofu stuff sounds really cool, but I have a soy allergy.
Yeah.
There are a couple of non-soy tofus now.
Yes. The most popular I've seen is fava bean tofu, which is like over 90% tofu, which is over 90% protein, which is like wild.
Yeah. Also kind of hard to find.
Yeah, we haven't been able to find it yet, but I hear good things.
Yeah.
There's also a chickpea tofu and a pumpkin seed tofu that we have been able to find. The macros aren't nearly as good, and they're pretty expensive. So I think, like, unless you have a soy allergy, I probably wouldn't be looking at those as good options, in my opinion, unless you're making like a homemade version that's cheaper.
Yeah.
Or maybe you have an endless budget and you don't care about the cost.
Right. And then we've also seen some people making their own tofu out of lentils and other stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So,
apparently you can make tofu out of nearly anything with a good coagulant. So,
and then, tofu is, made out of soybeans, and there is kind of a stigma around soy sometimes. So you might be wondering, like, how much tofu can I eat? Can I eat tofu all the time? So some people try to limit soy. There's not really a lot of basis for that. Like, there was one case, I think a study a long time ago, and then the title of the study was actually an unusual case. That's what it was called. And there was like one guy who ate I think he was drinking a bunch of soy milk, and he had some like estrogen changes and stuff like that. He stopped drinking soy milk and it went away. But basically, like every time they've ever tried to reproduce that, it doesn't pop up again. So it's just like all this stigma that circulates around this one case of this one guy who might have had some like genetic, predisposition kind of thing. So that's kind of led to people saying like, okay, you can eat soy, but maybe don't eat too much soy and things like that. So one thing to note is that like people in other cultures eat soy on a really regular basis, especially in, Asian cultures where tofu originated. I mean, soy is a big part of the diet over there. It's usually small portions, and it's not like you're eating a big chunk of tofu or anything, but they're eating soy,
all the time.
All the time. Yeah. So I think even if you do follow kind of the quote unquote limits that are in some of the stuff from the studies, it's more tofu than you would ever actually eat in a day.
I think I saw was like 3 or 5 entire blocks of tofu or something is like when you start hitting a limit, which like, wow.
Yeah.
You have more calories than I've got.
Right. And even that limit is like, there's not really a basis for it. They just say like, okay, so the thing is like soy has something called isoflavones, and it has phytoestrogens, and it's like a weaker version of estrogen you have in your body, basically. So kind of the theoretical basis is if you had too much phytoestrogen, it might impact your actual estrogen levels. But they've done a lot of studies on this, and that just doesn't really happen in the body in reality. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't limit soy at all, and I don't see any problems, and I don't really see any reason to limit soy based on everything I've read about it.
Yeah. Enjoy your soy.
Right. But, some people tend to think that. But I wouldn't worry about it personally. So.
Yeah. And I guess if you're really worried about it, like go do some lab work before and after. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like if this is like a really big concern of yours, but you don't have a soy allergy.
Yeah. You can check your estrogen levels.
Yeah.
It's a blood test. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, estrogen, by the way, is not necessarily a bad thing. Estrogen is, protective of the heart, even in higher levels, even in men. So even if you do get higher estrogen levels from anything, it's not really an issue until they're like extremely high and causing other side effects and stuff. But just in general, there's not really a reason to be concerned about.
Yeah. If you eat a block of tofu a day, you're not going to magically get double Ds.
It's going to do nothing to you. Like it's not going to noticeably, even in a blood test, a block of tofu a day wouldn't noticeably even impact your estrogen levels at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, if tofu really gave people boobs, there would be less plastic surgery.
Yes, exactly.
Because tofu is definitely cheaper than plastic surgery.
Also a lot less hormone replacement therapy.
Oh,
There are people out here taking medical estrogen.
Right.
They could just eat soy, right?
If that was a thing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Lots of reasons that doesn't really make sense.
So, like, we kind of threw in a myth in our section, but like...
Mini myth.
Yeah, mini myth.
But anyway, yeah, there are some other forms of soy that are great. Since soy is really the basis, like the complete protein, tofu is just one version of soy.
Yeah, so like if you hate tofu in all the forms, and you've already tried it in all the ways we've already mentioned, there's some other options.
Yeah. Some of those are edamame and dry roasted edamame. So edamame is like typically kind of you cook it a little bit and you eat it, but you can also eat it in a dry roasted whole bean form. And then there are edamame puffs.
Yes, those are great.
And again, edamame is just a young soybean, not a mature soybean.
Right.
So it's all still soybeans.
Edamame puffs, we use those a lot in like Rice Krispie treats and like homemade protein bars, but it's basically you'd use kind of similar to puffed rice, but it's like 80% protein.
Right.
It's basically like a soy protein isolate plus a little bit of rice starch, and now it's puffs of little balls.
Yep. And then there is TVP, textured vegetable protein. We use that for all kinds of stuff. We talked about it a lot before.
Savory and baked goods.
Yeah. Soy curls.
Soy curls is a good one.
Yeah.
About 40% protein, and it has a shit ton of fiber.
Yeah.
Very easy to use.
Also TVP chunks.
Yeah.
So normally TVP's in like granule form.
Yeah, kind of like minced.
So these are kind of bigger. And then there's also a brand called Say Grace, and they make a unique product, so you just kind of have to call it Say Grace.
Which gets us into so much trouble, because if I even mention it, I'm being told I'm making an ad for Say Grace, which I'm absolutely not.
We're not shilling. It's just a unique product, and that they didn't give it a different name.
It's not my fault they didn't name it, okay?
But it is great. We do eat it. But,
we do eat it. We do buy it.
So it's basically concentrated soy. So it's very high in protein.
It's like 90% protein.
But also, if you're worried about the soy issues and kind of the stigma we were talking about, Say Grace specifically mentions on their website that they put their product through a process that removes all the isoflavones. So you might be thinking, oh God, concentrated soy, what's that going to do to my estrogen? Well, they decided to just avoid that issue entirely by taking the isoflavones out of the product. So it's a very high protein, soy-based product that literally doesn't have the thing that people are even theoretically concerned about in it.
Yeah, and it comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes. You use it kind of similar to soy curls. So basically you soak it and then add spices and cook it.
Yeah. And then there's also soy milk, which,
35 to 40% protein.
Yeah, surprisingly.
The best of the plant-based milks as far as protein.
Makes every cereal high protein, right?
Yeah, totally.
Then soy flour, and then soy protein powder.
Yeah. So soy flour is like, I use it in some baking. I've used it for pizza crust and stuff. It's usually like, I think 50 to 60% protein. But then you have soy protein powder, which is normally like the 80 to 90% range, very concentrated.
Yeah. And then tempeh is like a fermented soy that a lot of people really like.
Yeah, especially like the whole food plant-based crowd because they say it's a little less processed. So,
and then if you don't want to try to make your own recipes, but we've convinced you to maybe try tofu, usually your best bet are like Asian restaurants, mainly because, like we said, they've been using it for thousands of years.
Don't go to white people restaurants if you want to try tofu for the first time. That's just true, man.
Yeah.
Like, unless they have a lot of dishes around tofu, like if it's a vegan restaurant, you're probably safe. But if this is just like a random white person owned omnivore restaurant and they're like, yeah, you could sub in tofu for this thing, don't do that to yourself. It's probably, no offense, it's probably not going to be good.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I think a lot of restaurants, especially if they're not vegan or like they don't really care about the vegan option, they're just trying to like throw you a bone.
Yeah.
They're not like treating it special.
Yeah.
They're just kind of like chucking it on your plate.
Right. It's almost like, oh, I have to give tofu as an option, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, they keep messaging me, so I guess I'll put tofu as an option.
Yeah.
But, like, a noodle bowl place, that's going to impress you.
Yeah, noodle bowl. Thai usually has tofu as an option.
Yeah, Thai, their tofu's always good, yeah.
You can get a vegan pad Thai with some tofu on top.
Yep.
Awesome.
So good.
Indian places will have tofu a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time.
Yeah. Indian tends to favor more vegetarian food.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of Indian places that you can get some vegan dishes and you can add tofu.
And then I would say maybe avoid the frozen dinners from the store that have tofu.
Yeah.
They're usually not very good.
No. Don't do that.
Definitely not if you're like, okay, I'm going to try tofu again. Please don't go use this as...
Yes. If you're trying to make yourself fall in love with tofu, but you don't want to cook, just don't do that.
Yeah.
Go to a vegan restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, if none of these sound interesting to you, try to find a vegan restaurant near you.
Yeah. Look on Happy Cow.
Yeah. Although, honestly, like most vegan restaurants we've been to don't even have tofu on the menu, which is odd.
A lot of them use like seitan or maybe TVP. A lot of them use seitan these days, actually. So, yeah.
But yeah, Asian places, that's where it's at, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, you make a good point. I've actually noticed a lot more of the hybrid restaurants use tofu than actually fully vegan restaurants.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah. So some of our personal favorite tofu dishes, and these are actually going to be recipes from the Protein-Deficient Vegan website that you can try to make at home. Mine are any of the cheesecakes. They're all really good, and they're kind of interchangeable depending on what kind of flavors you like.
And those use silken tofu.
Right. You have a high-protein lasagna made with tofu that's really good.
Yeah.
And then my other favorite is the shredded barbecue sandwich that we were kind of talking about earlier.
Yeah, and that one kind of uses both because it's like shredded extra firm or super firm tofu.
Yeah.
But then it has coleslaw made with silken tofu.
Oh, the coleslaw is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm picky.
It's a twofer.
I'm really picky about coleslaw, but that coleslaw is really good. Coleslaw is so weird because it's like, sorry, this is a tangent, but coleslaw, for whatever reason, is like you order coleslaw at a place and there's like a 50% chance it's going to be the type of coleslaw you like.
Yeah.
There's so much variety for something that's like 3 ingredients.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's really flavorless.
Yeah.
Which is always a bummer.
Right. And then is it going to be like wet coleslaw or are you just going to bring me like the purple cabbage in a bowl and call that coleslaw? There's a whole thing.
There was one place we went to where it was just like, there wasn't a creamy sauce to it at all.
Exactly.
It was like a vegan coleslaw, but it was like just straight up vinegar on cabbage.
A little cabbage salad with vinegar.
I'm like, don't call it coleslaw.
I want to see every menu that offers coleslaw should have a picture of how do you make your coleslaw.
I agree.
Because
we need picture.
There have been way too many times I've ordered it and I'm just like, I'm not eating that.
Yeah. Dude, I remember I worked at a fast food restaurant in high school and I remember them making coleslaw in the back and there's like this big ass, this massive tub. It had to be like a 2-gallon tub of coleslaw dressing and they just get this big bowl and they just toss in like 5 pounds of shredded cabbage and then they just like mush it around with their gloved hands.
Yeah.
And that's just like a memory I have. I didn't get to do that. They wouldn't let girls work in the back because of knives.
Okay.
I don't know. It felt a little sexist.
Yeah. So this reminds me, okay, I think we mentioned, another tangent. One time, okay, I think we mentioned before on the podcast that I sold knives for a very short period of time. So anyway.
Did they allow females to sell knives?
Sure, they did.
Okay.
That's not. But there was one person I went to. It was like a friend of a friend of a friend. It wasn't anybody in my family or anything. But it was an older lady, and I went to give her this whole knife presentation. And she sat there very politely through the entire thing. And then at the end, I was trying to like close the sale or whatever. And she said, "Oh, no, they won't let me have sharp things."
Oh my God, maybe I was on a don't give this girl sharp things list and I didn't know.
Maybe.
They were like, yeah, no, girls can't work in the back, but it was just me.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it might be a whole thing, you know.
That's interesting. How do you get on a list? How do you know you're not allowed to have sharp things?
I'm not sure. We should have asked her. I was just a little...
I would have had to ask questions. Yeah. Like, do you have a doctor's note that says this? Like, how do you know?
Yeah, it seemed like it wasn't allowed to. It seemed like prying, you know, like...
Oh, I don't know. I'm kind of nosy.
My guess is because she maybe couldn't hold on to it and drop it.
Oh, okay.
That'd be my guess. I don't know.
She didn't stab things. She just didn't have good grip strength.
I didn't stick around long enough to find out. So.
I think when someone says that, you don't stick around long enough. Like, you can't have sharp things, that feels like a warning. It's like when you see a snake with a rattler, like, I'm going to bounce.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good way to get somebody trying to sell you something out of your house. I'll say that.
Oh, I can't have sharp things. And then you just gotta stare.
While all the knives are on the table.
Oh, fuck. Well, I'm glad you're alive. That would have been really sad if you got stabbed to death.
By my own knives.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been a story.
And they would have worked, too. They were good knives.
They were good. They can rip through freaking tomatoes and paper.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what are your favorite tofu dishes?
Wow. Hard to follow that up. I'm going to have to go with, and this isn't high protein, but like the silken tofu pie that I always bring to gatherings.
Dude, that one's so good.
That one's just like blended silken tofu with melted chocolate chips, and it sets up really nice. And then I put like a peanut butter drizzle on top, and it's super, super good.
Yeah. That's definitely not high protein.
It's not diet friendly at all.
No.
No, that's like holiday.
Yeah.
Everyone likes it.
It's like a birthday pie.
It's super good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really easy. It takes like 10 minutes to make.
Yeah.
My next one is going to be the Philly cheesesteak, which was like finely sliced tofu in a marinade. I think that one's really good.
I agree.
And then I'm going to have to go with the spinach and artichoke dip because I've always liked spinach and artichoke dip. Anything I can put tortilla chips in.
Yeah, that's always been one of my favorites too. So it's cool to have a vegan version.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for tofu. We do want to hear though, if you guys have any tofu tips or ways that you like to use tofu that we didn't talk about. I'm sure there are many, many ways to do it that we haven't done. So please share that with us, comment or reach out or something.
We like to learn.
Yeah. So now let's move into our myth of the week. The myth of the week this week is that you can be in a calorie deficit and not lose weight.
Didn't you get in a fight on Threads about this?
It wasn't really a fight. It was just a discussion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Nobody, there's no
Not
winners.
heated?
No winners or losers.
Did you win?
No, I don't think so, actually. Did I win? What does that mean? So winning would be like they agree with me.
Oh, you're never going to win on Threads.
I know.
No one wins on Threads.
That's what I consider a win.
Nobody wins on Threads.
Yeah.
Just know that if you're ever responding to like some anti-vegan shit on Threads, they're never going to let you win.
Yeah.
They actually just want engagement.
Yeah.
So.
And this one isn't really vegan specific, but
sure.
it still falls in the same. In fitness and
nutrition.
A lot of it's
very much clickbaity. Like, I'm going to say this outrageous thing to see how many people will engage with my comment.
Yeah. My goal is just to leave a little education in the replies, even if they don't end up agreeing.
Like in case someone clicks on it and wants to see that debunked, right?
Yeah. So anyway, for a calorie deficit, the gist of it is basically you're not in a calorie deficit just because you're eating the number of calories that a calculator told you is a calorie deficit. Right? Yeah. Like a calorie deficit means that you're eating fewer calories than you are expending in a day, if we're talking about a daily deficit. So the reason you might think you're in a deficit and you're not losing weight, the most common reason by far is inaccurate tracking, whether that's intentional or unintentional. Like there are a lot of behavioral things where you feel like your calories are really restricted, so you'll like sneak snacks and not track them and things like that. So you kind of trick yourself into tracking different things. And then there's also just like I've seen a lot of things where like people don't track condiments. So they'll have like mayonnaise and they don't track it. They don't understand.
That's a problem.
Or they have like they don't track oil.
Or they don't weigh stuff.
Yeah, they don't weigh things. Another big one because you trust the like the scoops and the tablespoons and all that stuff.
They lie to you, especially with powders.
Yeah, so tracking is a huge issue, and that's almost always the reason that like the number that should be a deficit for you isn't causing you to lose weight. But it's really important to understand that like you shouldn't be attached to the number. Like you know whether you're in a deficit based on if you're losing weight.
Yeah,
it's not really based on the number.
You could also have something happening with your metabolism. Like I've had thyroid issues for like the last many years.
Yeah.
Basically, my thyroid levels went high, and then my thyroid had to be obliterated. I don't know what the hell they call it.
It's ablated.
Ablated. Obliterated's way more fun to say.
Yeah.
But I had to take like an iodine radiation pill or whatever, and it like destroyed my thyroid. So anyways, now I don't have a thyroid and I'm on thyroid medication, but like sometimes it'll get low and it's like, oh, why am I gaining weight all of a sudden, even though I'm tracking and I'm doing everything right?
Yeah. And that's a great example of a situation where a TDEE calculator is probably not going to give you an accurate number.
Right.
So
I think that's like a good point though. Like if you are tracking everything and you have like come down on your calories to a point where you're like, man, this doesn't really make sense for like my height and weight and like what's going on. This looks like an anomaly.
Right.
Maybe go do some blood work.
Oh, for sure. And there are definitely a lot of reasons why like your expected calorie expenditure would be way off from your real calorie expenditure. There's hormones. There's something like an actual medical condition like that. There is something with like if you've been in a deficit for a while, your stress increases, which increases cortisol, which causes you to retain more water. Mm-hmm. So even while you're losing body fat, you're kind of retaining more water and it's kind of hiding the fact that you're losing that body fat.
Yeah.
So sometimes people will like temporarily increase their calories. They call it like a diet break or a refeed or something like that. And they'll think like increasing the calories cause them to lose more weight. It doesn't really work like that. What does happen there in some cases is like you increase your calories so your body stops kind of freaking out and it lowers your cortisol level and then suddenly you lose a bunch of that water weight.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they call that the whoosh effect because all the water kind of whooshes out.
Yeah. So, I've seen that happen with like changing my macros too.
Yeah. And if you change your carbs, that can happen quite a bit because carbohydrates retain water, but like that's how they work. So that's why like people go on a low carb diet and then they suddenly lose 10 pounds.
Right. But then when they add carbs back, it's back.
Exactly. So there are a lot of little things like that. But
or like your period can like really change your weight measurements for even a week or two at a time.
Water retention on a period is another huge one.
Yeah.
Another thing that can kind of happen that also I think confuses people is if you go into a deficit, your body will kind of turn down some of your, they call them NEAT, non-exercise activity, basically. so stuff like fidgeting or just like how often you kind of get up and move from room to room naturally. You don't even think about it. Like your body will kind of make you do less of those things.
Because it thinks you're dying.
Sort of, yeah. To try to preserve energy, basically. But that's really just causing you to expend less calories. So there are some cases where you can slightly increase calories and you'll kind of feel more energized and maybe you like start going to do your workouts more, or you're like walking around more and things like that. So it's not really that like increasing your calories fixed your deficit. It's just increasing your calories gave you a little more energy and then therefore you were able to go burn more calories.
Yeah, it like took you out of your hibernation state.
Sort of, yeah. But those are usually like an edge case. And that's not going to be like, I saw something online. It was like, I was in a deficit for a long time. And this wasn't a conversation I was a part of. I just saw I was in a deficit for a long time. And then I like suddenly somebody told me to try to eat 1,000 more calories a day. And I did that. And then I started losing weight. That's probably a little bit of an exaggeration because like eating 1,000 calories a day, unless that caused you to burn like more than 1,000 calories extra in a day, that's not really going to be beneficial in the long run because it is still, it's called an energy balance basically. So the calories you take in versus the calories that you expend. And you also see that as calories in, calories out. So there are a lot of things that will affect the calories outside of that, like the hormones, the medical conditions, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the math still has to work out where to lose weight, you have to eat fewer calories than you expend.
The math has to math.
Right. So yeah, basically you can't be in a calorie deficit and not lose weight, but there are a lot of things that will kind of make you think you should be in a calorie deficit when you're really not.
Yeah.
But, the conversation I was in was basically like, I've been in a calorie deficit for 2 years and I haven't lost any weight. And it's like, well, no, you're not. It's just for whatever reason, you've been at your calorie maintenance for 2 years. So you're either going to have to increase activity or you're going to have to lower the calorie intake. Like there's not really, other than those edge cases, it's probably, and because that person was at maintenance and not really in a deficit for that, it's like there's not really a situation where you're going to increase your calories and then you're going to start losing weight.
Yeah.
For most people. So, yeah. So that's basically the myth. Like if you're not losing weight, you're just not in a calorie deficit. But there are a lot of reasons why you might not be in that deficit.
Right.
If you do want to see your actual expenditure, I would recommend tracking your food with an app called Macro Factor, because that will basically take your weigh-ins every day, kind of average those out, assuming you weigh in every day. It'll take them however often you do it. It's best if you do it every day. And then you track your food intake in there, so the same as like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer or something like that. And then it tells you your actual expenditure, because that's the only 2 data points you need to know to actually know your daily calorie expenditure is how much did I eat, like if you're tracking accurately and everything. And then, how much did my weight change over time on average? And that is like your actual, you don't even need a TDEE calculator. If you've already been tracking your food and you've tracking your weight for like more than 2 weeks, you know everything the calculator is going to tell you and you know it a lot more accurately. So as long as you know how to do the calculation or you use an app like Macro Factor. All right. So that's pretty much it for the myth.
Debunked.
Yeah. So what are the updates in protein-deficient vegan land this week?
Man. Well, we've had some personal stuff going on, so we've been a little depressed over here lately, and I haven't been very productive this week. But I did finally post about the bean bowl.
Oh, the famous, vaunted bean bowl that you definitely hated on for a long time.
No.
Now is your favorite food of all time.
It's not your bean bowl, it's my bean bowl. Your bean bowl is the beans in a bowl.
Are there beans in this bowl?
Yeah, but there's other stuff. There's other stuff.
I don't need to hear the details.
Okay. You can put your bean bowl on the website if you want.
Okay, tell me about the bean bowl.
But it's going to have your name by it.
We'll see. Okay, we should do a vote about who. No, we shouldn't do this. No. I don't. I was going to say vote for which bean bowl is better, but that doesn't make sense because yours is just better. So. Yours has more stuff and it's better.
I had a few people comment on, because I made an Instagram reel about it, and a reel on other places, but I had a couple people on Instagram be like, oh, this is the bowl. Because I'm like, oh shit, I think I'm really talking about this a lot.
Yeah, you are really hating on me a lot.
I think I've been talking about this stupid bowl a lot.
Anyway, you've come around. It's
not your bowl.
It's beans in a bowl.
Jesus.
All right.
Anyways, so that's there. And I guess I'm going to put it as a recipe on the website. Even though I feel like it's not really a recipe, but I think I'm going to put it on there anyway. Because like a lot of people were like, oh, I like that it's really, really easy and I can just go make this right now, which I realize there's not very many of my recipes where you can just go to your kitchen and make a thing. even this doesn't feel like a recipe, but I don't know. Is it a recipe?
It's just a simple recipe.
Tell me if it's a recipe, guys. It feels like it should be a recipe.
Yeah.
There are numbers next to the ingredients, so I don't know. I think I'm gonna do it. But I am gonna take a different picture because I had a couple people say that like the bowl I used was like this really pretty black bowl, but the inside has like a pattern, like a greenish blue and yellow, and somebody was like, I thought this was mold and you've been only eating the same bowl of beans for a month. And I was like, oh, now I will only be filming with black bowls now. So
wow.
good to know.
They probably like formed a whole idea of your life.
Yeah, I am a disgusting, gross person who eats moldy beans. I'm not.
Out of the same bowl.
Over and over.
Oh, man.
We do dishes here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'll be using my boring ass black bowls from now on. What about you? You got any updates?
Yeah, the clients from the Veganuary training contest are going into their second block of 4-week training. So some people changing it up quite a bit. Some people kind of just doing the same thing because they're making good progress.
Are they all killing it though?
Oh, yeah, they're all doing a great job. And they're all still, as far as I know, they're all still having fun. I have a weekly survey, and part of that is, are you still having fun? And they all say yes. So
they're lying to you because they think you're going to make them do horrible things if they answer wrong.
Well, it does say, I'm going to reach out to you if you say no. So.
Nobody wants to talk to you.
I know. That's how I get them to say yes. Satisfaction guaranteed.
I'm going to tell a marketer your ass if you say no.
So yeah, that's most of what I got going on.
Are you having a good time? Yes.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for sticking around with us. If you look down in the show notes, you see a link, first of all, to the Discord. We're getting a couple more people in there. It's still pretty busy.
We're up to 50. It's a fun place to be.
Yeah, lots of sharing. Got a couple different channels about like accountability and recipes and nutrition and fitness and a little bit of conversation in each of them every day, it seems like. So
yeah, I think we got a lot of really good people.
Yeah.
I like everyone in there a lot.
Me too. So you can join that. And then also if you could rate and review our podcast on Apple Podcast or Spotify. And then if you're on Spotify or YouTube, you can also leave comments on the podcast. We love hearing from you guys. And then also on the show notes are our websites, Protein-Deficient for the recipes, MuscleDeficientVegan.com for like fitness stuff. And then our social medias. You want to follow us there, send us a message, reach out.
See my moldy cheese bean bowl.
Yeah, that's enticing right there. Yeah, we hope to hear from you guys and hope you enjoyed the podcast. So I think that's it. You want to say bye?
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.